The elegant cream envelope sat open on my kitchen counter, the contents spread before me like evidence at a crime scene. A wedding invitation with my name carefully written in gold calligraphy. A handwritten note from my daughter Jessica explaining why I was no longer welcome at her wedding, the same wedding I had paid for in full just 3 weeks earlier. My hands trembled as I read the final line. I hope you understand that your presence would make things uncomfortable for everyone. I reached for my phone and called the bank. If I wasn't welcome at the celebration, then neither was my money. Jessica was my only child from my first marriage to Robert, a relationship that ended when she was 7. The divorce was messy, with Robert painting me as career-obsessed and cold, accusations that weren't entirely false. As a young attorney fighting to make partner at my firm, I had missed school plays and parent-teacher conferences. I had worked late nights and weekends. I had prioritized cases over bedtime stories. When Robert remarried quickly to Diane, a kindergarten teacher with seemingly endless patience and time for baking cookies, the contrast was stark. Jessica spent weekdays with me in our downtown apartment, rushing between school and the babysitter and my brief appearances. Weekends were at Robert and Diane's suburban home with its backyard swing set and Sunday pancake traditions. By her teenage years, Jessica had chosen to live with them full time. I didn't fight it. I told myself it was better for her to have stability, to not be constantly packing and unpacking her life. But the truth was, I didn't know how to be the mother she needed. Despite the distance, I never stopped trying in the only ways I knew how. I paid for summer camps and private school tuition. I attended her graduations. I helped with the down payment on her first condo. I showed my love through financial support rather than emotional connection. When Jessica met Michael 5 years ago, I was genuinely happy for her. He was kind and steady, a civil engineer with a thoughtful manner that seemed to balance my daughter's more impulsive nature. Their engagement last year came as no surprise. "Mom, we want to keep it small and simple," Jessica had told me over our monthly dinner. Nothing extravagant. But as the months passed, their vision expanded. The intimate gathering grew to 150 guests. The restaurant reception became a country club affair. The simple ceremony transformed into an elaborate production with 8 bridesmaids and custom-made everything. "I can help," I had offered when Jessica mentioned the mounting costs. "Let me take care of it." The relief on her face was immediate and genuine. For once, I could provide exactly what she needed. Planning a wedding revealed new dimensions to our relationship. Jessica began calling me regularly, not just for money but for opinions on flowers, menu options, and dress styles. I rearranged my schedule to attend cake tastings and venue tours. For the first time in decades, I felt like a real mother, involved and valued. The wedding costs continued to climb. What had started as an offer to contribute became a commitment to fund the entire celebration, from the designer dress to the honeymoon in Bali. I didn't mind. My career had been successful, and I had savings earmarked for Jessica anyway. 3 months before the wedding date, I received an unexpected call from Robert. "Have you spoken with Jessica lately?" he asked, his voice carrying that familiar note of disapproval. "Just yesterday," I replied. "We were discussing the final head count for the caterer." "So she hasn't told you about the issue with the guest list?" Robert explained that Michael's mother had raised concerns about the seating arrangements. She didn't want to be anywhere near me during the reception. "That seems manageable," I said carefully. "We're all adults. Surely we can be seated at different tables." "It's more complicated than that. She's convinced you'll try to overshadow her at the wedding since you're paying for everything. She wants to contribute financially too, but can't match your contribution." "I never intended to overshadow anyone," I protested. "I just wanted to help Jessica have the wedding she deserves." After hanging up, I immediately called my daughter, but she didn't answer. Instead, I received a text. "Really busy with work today. Can we talk tomorrow?" Tomorrow became the next day, then the next. Jessica began declining my calls and responding to texts with brief, non-committal answers. The easy communication we had established during wedding planning evaporated, replaced by the old pattern of distance and avoidance. When we finally did meet for coffee, Jessica seemed distracted and uncomfortable. "Is everything okay with the wedding plans?" I asked directly. "Yes, everything's fine," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "Just finalizing some details." "And is there an issue with Michael's mother?" Jessica's face flushed. "Dad shouldn't have said anything. It's not a big deal." "If it's affecting our relationship, it feels like a big deal to me." "Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm already stressed enough." I backed off, not wanting to add to her burden. "I'm here if you need me," I said as we parted. "For anything." She nodded but didn't call again for 2 weeks. The uninvitation arrived 24 days before the wedding, not by phone or in person, but in that cream envelope delivered by mail. Jessica's handwriting was neat and controlled. "Dear Mom, this is the hardest letter I've ever had to write. After much consideration, Michael and I have decided it would be best if you didn't attend our wedding ceremony or reception." I read on, my vision blurring. "Michael's family has expressed strong concerns about your presence creating tension, given your strained relationship with Dad and your tendency to make events about yourself. Make events about myself? When had I ever done that? I had spent decades carefully stepping back, making myself small and unobtrusive in Jessica's life. Additionally, having you there would mean explaining our complicated family dynamic to Michael's relatives, many of whom have traditional views about family." The final paragraphs were filled with reassurances that this wasn't about my financial contribution, that they still appreciated everything I had done, that perhaps we could celebrate privately after they returned from their honeymoon. I sat at my kitchen table for hours, reading and rereading the letter until the words lost all meaning. This wasn't just about a wedding. This was about my place, or lack thereof, in my daughter's life. After all the years of trying to support her in the ways I could, after finally feeling like we were building something meaningful during the wedding planning, I was being erased again. My phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. It was my assistant reminding me about a meeting I had completely forgotten. After hanging up, I looked again at the invitation and letter spread before me. The country club venue that had cost a small fortune. The 5-course dinner I had selected with Jessica. The band that had required a full payment in advance to secure the date. All of it paid for from my account, with the final installments processed just last week. In that moment, a lifetime of accommodating others, of accepting less than I deserved, of financing my way into my daughter's life, it all crystallized into a single clear thought: no more. With surprisingly steady hands, I called my bank, then the credit card company, then the wedding planner, the venue, the caterer, and every other vendor whose contract had my name on it. "I need to cancel all payments related to the Parker Williams wedding," I said again and again, effective immediately. The calls started coming within hours. First the wedding planner, frantic and confused, then Robert, furious and accusatory. Finally, Jessica herself, her voice breaking between sobs and angry accusations. "How could you do this?" she demanded. "The wedding is in 3 weeks." "I received your letter," I replied, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "You made it clear I'm not welcome at the celebration, so I assumed my financial contribution wasn't welcome either." "That's not fair. We never asked you to withdraw your support." "No, you just asked me to disappear after writing the checks, to remove myself from the equation so you wouldn't have to explain my existence to Michael's family, to fund a party I'm not allowed to attend. You're twisting everything. This isn't about excluding you. It's about making sure the day goes smoothly for everyone." "Everyone except me." The conversation dissolved from there, with Jessica alternating between pleading and recriminations. I held firm, explaining that my decision wasn't motivated by revenge, but by self-respect. "I won't be treated as an ATM with no feelings," I told her. "I deserve better than that, even if you don't see it." After she hung up, I expected to feel regret or doubt. Instead, I felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. For the first time in our complicated relationship, I had established a boundary and held it. The next day, Robert appeared at my door. "You've really done it this time," he said without greeting. "Jessica and Michael are scrambling to figure out how to salvage their wedding day." "I imagine they are," I replied, not inviting him in. "Actions have consequences." "This isn't about consequences, it's about cruelty. You're punishing Jessica because your feelings were hurt." "Is that how you see it? Because from where I stand, I simply decline to financially support an event where I'm explicitly unwanted. Would you pay for a party you were told not to attend?" He had no answer for that. The wedding went forward, though in a significantly scaled-back form. Robert and Diane contributed what they could. Michael's parents did the same. Jessica and Michael adjusted their expectations and their plans, moving the ceremony to Michael's parents' church and the reception to a restaurant with a private dining room. I learned all this secondhand through mutual acquaintances and social media posts. I wasn't there to see my daughter walk down the aisle or share her first dance with her new husband. Those absences left a hollow ache I couldn't quite ignore. 2 months after the wedding, long after Jessica and Michael had returned from a shortened honeymoon, my doorbell rang on a Sunday afternoon. Jessica stood on my porch, looking both determined and uncertain. "Can I come in?" she asked. We sat in my living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. "I'm still angry with you," she began, "for pulling the funding at the last minute. But I'm also sorry for how everything happened. The letter, it was Michael's mother's idea. She convinced me it was the only way to keep the peace." "And you believed her?" Jessica nodded slowly. "I've spent my whole life trying to keep the peace between divided camps. You and Dad, you and Diane. Now Michael's family and mine. I'm exhausted from it." "I understand that burden," I said softly, "but uninviting me was never going to solve the underlying problem. I know that now. The wedding was fine. Not what we planned, but fine. And afterward, when Michael's mother still found things to criticize, I realized something important. The problem wasn't you. It was never about you." We talked for hours that afternoon, having the kind of honest conversation we should have had years ago. I explained how hurt I'd been by the uninvitation after trying so hard to be supportive in the ways I knew how. Jessica shared her perspective on growing up between two households, never feeling fully at home in either. "I can't promise I'll always get it right from here on," I told her as she was leaving, "but I can promise I won't use money as a substitute for the harder work of being present and honest." "And I can't promise I won't disappoint you again," she replied, "but I won't exclude you from my life anymore, even when it's complicated." It wasn't a perfect resolution. We still had years of miscommunication and hurt to navigate, but it was a beginning. Perhaps the first real beginning we'd had since she was a little girl. As for the wedding money, I eventually redirected it into a different kind of gift, a small business loan to help Jessica launch the interior design firm she had always dreamed of owning. "No strings attached," I told her when I presented the papers. "This isn't about buying a place in your life. It's about supporting who you are and who you want to become." She accepted with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on us even when I made it hard." That, I told her with absolute certainty, is what real mothers do.